Are you up for a little exercise? You don't have to get out of your chairs even. So I'd like you to just imagine that all of us in this room represent the entire population of the world, 6 billion people, okay? And now I'd like to divide the world in half. So I'm actually going to ask you to imagine that there's a line going right up the audience. Can you see where that funky little gap is in the chairs there? And all the way up. So if you're on this half of the world, raise your hand, just so we're clear. Great, great, okay. So if you're on this half of the world, you're a part of the population that, like us in this area, lives a pretty middle class or better existence. So what that means in economic terms is worldwide, your average income is about $46,717 a year. And on a day-to-day basis, what that means is that you get up in the morning and you feed your family 3 meals a day. You live in a house that you'll probably live in for probably 14 years on average. Your tax dollars allow your children about 12 years of schooling. And in short, your economic status gives you the freedom to really create a fulfilling life for yourself. You can pursue your goals, create a really meaningful existence. Does that sound about fair? Okay. Okay, now I want to ask you a question. How many of you, like me, at the end of a typical month, have $25 or more left over in disposable income? Raise your hand. Okay, keep them up. A lot of hands out there. Look around. See those? Great. Hold that thought. I want to talk to this side of the room for a minute. So, by accident of birth, and my drawing this line down the middle, you all live in that part of the world that's called a developing country, or we used to call them third world countries. Your average annual income is $485 a year. Yeah. Roughly 1% of that half of the room. You are part of a world that is struggling to live on less than $2 a day. And among you, every day, 25,000 people will die of preventable causes of poverty, most of them children. Yeah. So what is your daily life like? Well, you get up in the morning and you sometimes have to skip meals in order to feed your children. And some days, no one in your household will eat. You live in a house made out of mud or thatch that will have to be rebuilt every 2 or 3 years because it will be destroyed by some severe weather event. There are no public schools, and you don't typically have the fees to send your kids to school, but if you do, you may have to pull them out of school again because there's, you know, your crop has failed or you've had some drop in income. And perhaps saddest of all, you have this ongoing sense of shame because you can't provide for your children in the way you would like to. And you lead a life of really hard work for which, at the end, the only thing you have to show is bare survival. And I'm not going to ask you about what your disposable income is at the end of the month because I know there isn't any. So when I look at the lives of those people on that side of the room, and I think about our lives, I'm a little embarrassed because we have so much and they have so little. And that's probably you've thought that yourself. It's pretty obvious. But the question is, what do we do about it? And this is the section of the conference that's about doing. So I want to talk about what we can do. For years and years, I have given money to send food, medical supplies, all kinds of things overseas, and you probably have too. And I frankly have been very frustrated by it because the poverty just keeps going on, and I wanted to do something. And so in 2006, myself and 3 other colleagues, one of whom is here today, founded The Greater Contribution. We're a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization headquartered here in Thousand Oaks, and our goal is to make a dent in this fight against poverty. And after some research and hard looking, we realized that the way that we could make the biggest impact in poverty was this almost magical little tool called a microloan. And a microloan, as Weezy was mentioning earlier, is really just a tiny little loan. It can be as little as $50, and it's given to a woman and her family to create a micro business. And these micro businesses are anything from growing and selling produce to selling secondhand clothing to jewelry. The size is small, but the impact is huge because these businesses allow people to have a sustainable income, to have regular daily meals, to have decent housing, to send their kids to school. And these are loans, and they're not gifts, and they're repaid by the poor at a rate of 97 to 98%. It's really quite remarkable. Yeah. These are people that traditional banks say are not creditworthy, by the way. And so what we're investing in is not really a business. We're investing in the power of the human spirit to pull itself out of unimaginable poverty if they're just given a hand up, just a little bit of a hand up. And one of the things that I get very excited about is that there's this multiplier effect with microloans. So you give a gift of one microloan and it gets repaid within 90 to 120 days. So within a year, one microloan becomes 3 microloans, and it goes on year after year after year. So that's a really amazing thing. And I have to tell you that when I first learned about microloans, I thought, $50? You know, can that really make such a difference? But it really does. And I've just returned from 3 weeks in Africa, and I've seen the power of these microloans. They really do transform lives. And studies are showing that in, for instance, Bangladesh alone, 10,000 people a month are being pulled out of poverty with microloans. So let me introduce you to one of our micro borrowers. On the far right, kneeling down, is a woman named Martha Nwenge, and she lives in Malawi, East Africa, one of the poorest countries in the world. And like most of our microloan borrowers, for many, many years, she had to choose between feeding her children or sending them to school. And so she had the idea that she might start a nursery school in her home. She took out a microloan for $25, bought cups for water, toys for the children to play with, and she reported that she was very afraid because she'd never touched so much money in her life. But she worked hard, she was successful. You can see at the back of the picture, there are 3 other adult women. Those are the 3 women, her neighbors, that she has hired to help her now with the 30 children that are in the nursery school in her home. And for the first time in her life, she's able to save money, and she's planning to add a room onto her house to build a primary school. Yeah, isn't that great? It's an amazing, and this is a typical story. This is the amazing thing about little microloans. And I'm proud to tell you that the Greater Contribution has funded 3,000 microloans in the last year, 1,200 of them in Haiti, 1,800 of them in East Africa. Now, thank you. And you know, I'm willing to bet that everyone in this room is like me, that you give to some cause that's meaningful to you. I give to the Cancer Society every year because my father died of cancer. And so we give to things that touch us. And often these causes have gotten wide publicity. But the people I'm talking to you about today are invisible. They aren't talked about in the media. They're the people represented by this half of the room, those people struggling to live on $2 a day, and the 25,000 people a day who will die of poverty. So I hope that you have a room in your heart for them. They need your help very badly. And if you've ever been like me, you felt frustrated because you wanted to do something, but it seemed so hopeless, this is something we can all do, and it's not that hard. So I urge you to please do something extraordinary. Make your own greater contribution. Either see me at one of the breaks and let's talk about it, or go to our website and contact us, and let's see if we can do some things together. Thank you so very much.